Welcome to Reports from Arbroath. This episode is brought to you by Warwick Spice. Learn more at warwickspice.co.uk.
Hello and welcome to Reports from Arbroath. Today we are in lovely Lincoln, 360 miles from Arbroath, in the company of a gentleman who has the distinction of being a cult hero at two different football clubs. Walsall, where he was integral to many of the Saddlers' finest moments in their history, and is the record appearance holder, and West Ham, whom he helped back into the Premier League at a critical point in their history. A gifted goalkeeper, he recently published his autobiography entitled Size Isn't Everything, which alludes to the fact that he was released as a teenager by Notts County for being too small. Jimmy Walker, a very warm welcome to Reports from Arbroath. Notts County got it wrong, didn't they?
I mean, you probably have to ask them that one, Brian. That's the whole gist of the book, really. You know, released as a kid, 19 for being too small, and fought back for everything to finally nearly get to where I wanted to be, and I look back on it with immense pride doing it.
You should look back with a lot of pride, mate, because you went on to have a great career after that early rejection. Your autobiography, Jimmy, I think it's the most honest account of a career I've ever read. There are some great laugh-out-loud tales in there, but it also lays bare the challenges and the temptations and the pitfalls that come with a life in pro football. Proceeds from the book are going to your foundation, aren't they? The JW23 Foundation, to support ex-footballers. And we'll speak more about the mental health challenges of top-level football in a moment. But first, your career's had its downs, but also a lot of joy. You must look back with great pride.
When you're in it, it's difficult. You don't really see the bigger picture. But after a while now, I coached for 10 years after I finished playing, enjoyed that. And it was only when I stepped back from that, really, the last year or so, that I've, looked back doing the book, writing it. Again, there's a lot of things I'm very proud of in there, some I'm not so proud of. But yeah, you look back and just the career alone to get to where I got to, it gives me immense pride. It does.
You fulfilled your dream of playing in the Premier League. First up, of course, you fulfilled your dream of being a pro footballer, and there have been a few bruises along the way, hasn't there? And as an 18-year-old at Notts County being released by the fella who had been your youth team coach, that's an early bruising one to get your head around, isn't it?
I mean, I'd had it all my childhood, really. I was a sort of frustrated forward. I was a good goalkeeper, but I was probably too small to be a goalkeeper, so everyone kept telling me. And I was definitely too slow to be a forward. I knew that. I was hoping I'd grow a little bit as a goalkeeper as I got older, but I never did. And it got to 14, 15, and lads are getting taken on by, the clubs. I grew up in Mansfield, so I was a lot getting taken on by Mansfield, Forest, Notts County, Sheffield United, teams like that. It's a big area there, but I knew a lot of scouts came down. There's some good friends who were good players in my team, and it just never happened for me. I heard it even at a young age. He's good. He does well at this, what he does, but he's going to be too small to make it as a professional. So even then knocked me a little bit, and I finally got my chance. I played against the Notts County team. For my side, my Sheepbridge was called back in the day, with my mates, and we played against Notts County side in the next quarterfinals of the cup. And they was miles ahead of us. They battered us. They beat us 5-0. But I had a good game, even though I let in 5. And I thought it was probably my last chance to get a crack at a pro club. I'm turning 16. It was the academy was YTS back in those days, but that was coming up the following year. So if you hadn't got taken on by then, I'm not sure which road I'd have gone down. But fortunately, there's a guy called Alan Hill there. I was an ex-goalkeeper at Notts County at the time, and he saw something in me and asked my dad, who was the manager at the time. So there's the goalkeeper. I would like to bring him in. I trained there for a week, 10 days, and enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. I loved everything about the pro club. It was just being involved in it, around 40, 50 lads in the changing room, just gave me a massive buzz from the early days. And I wanted a bit of that. And, I worked hard at it. Finally got my chance to sign YTS forms, had a brilliant YTS couple of years. And, still some of my best mates now. Football, I signed 2 years pro. I was living in the middle of Nottingham. Sort of other temptations got in the way a little bit as well. Nottingham was fantastic back in the day, and I was always of the ilk, even in them early days, work hard, play hard, and probably stood me in good stead in some things, in not so good in other times. But it was great to be involved. I didn't quite work for me at Notts, and like you say, my youth team manager and Mick Walker, and I mean, we got on really well. We did so well for each other. I mean, he was a hard taskmaster anyway, but it was one of those. We won everything as a YTS. We weren't blessed with finesse and skills and as much quality, but the lads just had something in them they dug in, and we bullied teams, we battered teams even at a young age. And Mick Walker loved that side of things, like I said, the hard bloke. He drove us hard and pushed us all the way, and I think that stood me in good stead. Neil Warnock was the manager. He got the sack. Neil got the sack after a great 2 or 3 years spell, and Mick Walker got chance of the manager's job. And it was sort of petering out for me under Warnock, which was my own fault. Nothing to do with the club or Warnock. To be fair, he was a good manager as well. When Mick Walker got the job, I thought this could be the time where, I knuckle down again. I've got a real chance here. I've done well for him for 2 or 3 years. I've got him the job more or less, as well as the rest of the lads in the team. And I thought this was my time to knuckle down. He called us into his room. I remember it, like yesterday, really. I went in with my piece of paper. I wrote down what I wanted for a weekly and the contract going forward, because I was up in the summer. Before I could say anything or hand the paper, get the paper out, he started talking, and I'm thinking, not quite like where this is going. And then eventually said, look, you've not grown like we want you to. You've stopped coming out for crosses. You're not playing as big as you used to, and we're going to let you go. And with that, I crumpled the paper up in my pocket, and I sort of lost my head a little bit as well. I knew it was my own fault, so I was probably more peed off at myself than anything, because they had a good chance of playing there. But it'd gone too far, and he was right to do it. He was well right to do it. But at the time, you don't think that. So I had a little pop at him, called him a few names, and I had to go back, said, I've got you this job and you owe me another chance. And he just wouldn't have it. He just said, nah, you need to go, and it's gone stealthy here. Like I said, we don't think you're the goalkeeper we want you to be at the time. You've not grown. He kept saying that, which got right under my skin. And yeah, so that really knocked me. Right, I must admit, I left that office and left Notts County that day. I mean, I always say, and part of the reason why the foundation's formed as well. There's nowhere near enough support network for young lads that get released nowadays. Back in the day, there was nothing. I literally went in the office, gave a parting shot to the chairman, Mr. Pavis, at the time, and just said, "You're a businessman, Mr. Pavis. How does it feel to just lost £1 million?" And with that, walked out the office with my P45, him wondering what on earth I was on about. And that was it. And I had nothing after that.
But when you talk about the lack of support around Jim, that's quite amazing. Or there wasn't then, wasn't there? Because think of the number of footballers in their late teens like you were, but also your football career could end at the end of any contract, can't it? So there's always a conveyor belt of footballers losing their lifestyle.
Makes everything. It's everything that goes with it. It's everything you've dreamed of, everything you want it to be. And listen, I'll be honest, it's hard when you're 17, 18, but I'm going even lower down. How many kids go into academies now and the parents push them and they're going to be the next big thing. And then for whatever reason, at that age, you never know how you develop. And with 14, 15, you could be getting released from your academy. And even then you think your world's come apart and you definitely don't know how to deal with it there. There is more support system nowadays. You've got the HR and everything. And now there's just not quite enough people who understand it and have been through it, for me, that are involved. And that's where, just going on to the foundation, that's what I want to try and get to, where lads who have been involved in the game who are now probably having a bit of a hard time or whatever, need some focus. This could be an area that they get involved in, sort of a mentor type for young lads who have been released. And I went through it myself and it was tough. So I know exactly what I'm talking about. Someone who's 16, 17, 18, 19, I know exactly what I'm talking about. So that is the support system that's needed for me. And it is tough. It's so tough. I mean, my family are great. Listen, if you've read the book, you know how good my family are. They're always there for me. But they ain't have a clue. I've got my nan saying everything will be all right, son. Don't worry about it. I'm going, how? I'm 18, 19 years of age. My dream's over. if he's saying I'm too small, someone, the manager I've done really well for, that's, who else is going to take a chance on me? So that's where I was at with that.
You mentioned your family, and they've obviously been a real thread of support. And your dad had some important things to say during that summer, didn't you? Just not putting you under pressure, but just saying, Jim, just make the best of yourself. And lo and behold, Walsall turns up, and that is the start of a really happy chapter of your career.
Yeah, absolutely. And it nearly didn't happen. I must admit, I went away with my mates from school straight away. Went to Tenerife, had a good time. Probably stayed over there for far too long. I mean, Dad did it. Dad was brilliant with it. Whether he meant to do it or not, that's just the way he was. He didn't put any pressure on us. He didn't say, right, you've got to dig back in. You're going to be a dosser for the rest of your life. You're going to waste your life. He just said, look, it's totally down to you. I know it's hurt you, but you've got two choices. He said, all right, you have another go. You give it everything you've got. And if it doesn't work for someone else, then fair enough. And if it does, you can prove to them they was wrong to let you go. And I had Walsall on the phone, Torquay on the phone, a couple of non-league clubs, but there was nothing massively going on, really. And I played against Walsall the season before in the reserves for Notts County. I had a good game. You sort of get a feel for places, and I really liked it there. It helped. I did well in the game. Kenny Hibbett, Paul Taylor was the manager and the assistant at the time. Fantastic blokes. And they've obviously saw something in me from the reserve game. They tried to get me in the end of the season, but my head wasn't quite right. So I said, look, if I'm going to come, I'll come pre-season. I'd left it at that, really. They'd had the playoffs, left it for the summer, and I was back on the phone. And so when my dad said that, what do you want to do? Got Walsall on the phone. Again, no pressure, but, you'd have not to give it a go. Just give it a real good go, see where it takes you.
You were part of possibly the club's best era, I would imagine, and you played under some very contrasting managers, didn't you? The disciplinarians like Chris Nicholl and Ray Graydon. Jan Lawrenson, probably less disciplinarian, but my word, what a character.
Started with Kenny Hibbett, who was an unbelievable guy. He was still a good player as well. We used to train on a Friday, and we only finished when he scored the winner on it, and it had to be a volley from about 20 yards. So in the end, we all knew that guy, Jim, just let it in. For God's sake. Thankfully, Kenny, Paul Taylor, and Mick Kearns, who was most important to me over my periods at Walsall, was my goalie coach, and he was, my mentor in the end. He was a fantastic man who I owe probably everything to, really. They saw something in me early, and we skipped over a few hurdles to start with, shall we say. I was a little bit overweight. I was probably a bit cocky, but they saw something in me and threw me in after about 12 games as the season started. And I honestly just remember playing in the first game with the crowds. I like to say, I think that's what makes Walsall special. There's all the big boys around, and Walsall's like a family, and I got that from an early start. The fans are always there. We always got 4,000 or 5,000 hardcore. And if you do well, you'll get some more on the back of it. If you do not so well, they'll always stay around that. So it was great to get that under my belt. Chris Nicholl came in after Kenny, who was a totally different character to Kenny. Kenny was nice and laid back. Chris was an absolute crazy man. But he was exactly what I needed at that time, right? Exactly what I needed. He took no nonsense. He put me on the right path, Chris. And it took us probably about a year to gain his trust, really. I think it only came, we had ups and downs throughout that season, but it probably came at the end of the season. We got promoted, my first promotion, Chris's first year. I got thrown in on the last couple of games because Trevor Wood, who'd had an unbelievable season, was injured. He played all season, Trevor. I broke my leg earlier, end of the season before. Got back in as Chris came in, and then we went with Woody, and Woody was unbelievable. But yeah, he ended up, Woody had a little groin injury. Chris had to throw me in, and I think he was unsure. It was only Mick in the background, Mick Kearns in the background saying, look, he'll be fine, play him. And I ended up having a couple of good games when we got promotion, and I still probably put that down as one of my favourite moments in football. And after that, I had Chris's trust. He was fantastic, and he likened me to, he'd worked with Peter Shilton, who was my hero. He'd worked with John Burridge, who was another idol of mine. I'd worked with all these players at Southampton, goalkeepers, and he was lightening my game to these. He's going, listen, there's no reason why you can't emulate these And that's when my confidence started to grow. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe I can do something in the game now. And that was thanks to Chris and what he brought. And he was ahead of his time, Chris, to be fair. And then, like you say, we had Jan Sorensen came in after Chris, who was again, so we've gone from Kenny, who was nice and relaxed, he had his moments where he'd kick off, to Chris, who you was on your toes every second of every day you was in the trailer. You couldn't rest on your laurels in the slightest. And then Jan Sorensen came in, he was totally the other end of the scale. He was so relaxed, it was ridiculous. He was like, it's the European way, let's play. But he was, and you know what, for me to see that the different side of it again was fantastic. I think I played 64 games under Jan that year, and it was probably one of the most colourful years I've ever had in football, to be honest. After a year of Jan did well. We had a good cup run, and I think our relaxed style helped us in big games. We just didn't quite work in the league for us week in, week out. Probably get away with a little bit too much. And Ray came back in, then we could get away with nothing again. And probably that time with Ray set up the, probably like you say, I'm talking out of turn. Fans and people at the club might disagree, but I'd say probably the most successful time in the club's history after that.
Yeah, some good solid seasons in the Championship, and really great era for the club. And you've been a big part of that, Jim. You've established yourself, and you must be thinking now, where can I go? And let's fast forward to Saturday, March the 6th, 2004. West Ham 0, Walsall 0. The BBC reports West Ham piled on the pressure, but Jimmy Walker's great form ensured a point for the visitors. And you were man of the match in the Sports Argus that night. I can remember that because I awarded it. But that goalless draw wasn't enough, it transpires, to save the Saddlers from relegation from the Championship. But at the final whistle, there was a little bit of an exchange that was going to shape your career, wasn't there? Wack? Tell us about that.
To be in the champ for that long, we had 4 years in the Championship was amazing. And at that time, I felt the club should have kicked on. Again, I say it all in the book. We had a real chance of sustaining that at the top level of the champ. Not just surviving every year, a chance of going mid-table to the playoffs at the time. It didn't quite happen with the constraints that was at the club at the time. The investment wasn't quite there, like you say. But going to places like West Ham was amazing for me, and that's. I'm starting now. I've played for 6-7 years thinking, but I can really trouble it now. 3 years, 4 years, well, probably definitely 3 last years in the Championship. I'm more than holding my own, doing really well. Playing against some top keepers, David James played for West Ham, possibly that day. There was some top goalkeepers around the champ, and I was as good as any of them, I thought, at the time. And yeah, West Ham, this is, like you say, a significant date for me because not many West Ham fans remember the game, I don't think, because it was that dull for them because it was a 0-0. But I remember having a really good game, and you used to take your towel and your spare gloves at the side of the goal. And after the game, I went to the Bobby Moore, stand behind the goal, got a standing ovation off all the West Ham fans, and I'm thinking, oof. Again, it was like a Walsall moment when I first went to Walsall, thinking, yeah, I like it, yeah, I could play. Obviously, that was in front of 36,000. It was a bit more of a buzz. I'm thinking, okay, I know my contract's up in the summer. And this is what I'm thinking. I need to go to a club like this that can kick on to if I'm going to fulfill all my aspirations, I need a club like a West Ham that needs to be in the Prem, that should be in the Prem.
What an adventure laid ahead of you, Wacker. Not just all good news as well, was it? Because I think it's well documented what happened. Fast forward this time to May the 30th, 2005. West Ham won Preston 0 in the playoff final to achieve your dream of getting to the Premier League. But as you've spoken about a lot before, of course, it also came with a real caveat for you, didn't it? Wrecking your knee in the last minute of that game. So while the club got ready and your colleagues in the squad got ready for playing in the Premier League, you were facing a year on the sidelines, and much of it spent in the gym at Chadwell Heath, which you very evocatively describe in the book as 2 porter cabins looking out over the car park. That is a mental health challenge, isn't it?
The contrasting emotions in my head even now, it's bittersweet I used at the time, but it was really, because it represented everything I ever wanted to do to get to the Prem. So for me to get to the Prem and go with West Ham, I had a real chance of playing the following season as well and starting as the number one. I'd done that well there. And it was, and that was my chance to cement everything I'd ever spoke about. I always felt, not always, and I was knocked as a kid, but I wanted to prove people wrong. I actually wanted to prove me right more than them wrong, that I could get to the top levels. I could emulate your Shiltons, etc. I'll be honest, I even at that 29 years of age, top of my game, I'm even thinking, I want to trouble the England squad. I want to trouble the international. So I want to get as far as I can here. So that game, I was never going to lose it. I said to the lads, listen, we go 1-0 up, we win the game. I promise you, I ain't letting the goal in today. So when we scored with about 30 minutes to go, Bobby Zamora scored in 2-4 here. But me and I couldn't quite enjoy the moment. It was business. I needed to get that Premier at the time. I wanted it so badly. I just said to the young lads who were back, Anton Ferdinand, Elliot Ward, there was 18 at the time. They came in at the same time as me, about 18 games to go. Paul's put them in as well at the same time and said, let's have a go, see what it takes. And I had a real good relationship with them. And I sort of said, I want to take the pressure off them. They're 18 years of age. I'm 29, 30. Like, keep a high line, block any runners, any ball that comes in the box, because Preston kept swinging it in, I'll come for it. And yeah, like I said, it worked really well until seconds to go. They got a free kick just inside our half. So hold the box, do not come in the box. Anything above your heads, I'll come, and end up taking it. Probably the highest I've ever been, with a bit of adrenaline and movement. Sort of the mechanism I do several times a week. How you take the ball high but land on your right leg. And I was really near the edge of the box, so I just twisted a little bit to stay inside the box as I landed. And with that, like I said, my knee exploded, and I sort of smashed every bit of it you could do. I sort of smashed, so it was a long time to get back. But like I said, I did enjoy the day, loved the day, but I knew at the back of it, I was going to be out for a long time. And to do the year out, like you say, it was torture, because it was somewhere where I've always wanted to be. I finally got there. I'm not too small anymore. Now I'm never going to get fit again. I'm injured. People have wrote me off now saying I'll never get back to fitness. You touched on the gym at Chedwell Heath at the time. It was 2 port cabins pushed here. It was the dingiest gym of all time. He had bars on the windows. And it did, over the coming months, became sort of my prison in there. And that's when I sort of came off the rails, is probably the wrong word, but just, I came so far away from fulfilling my dreams that I wanted to do. It was miles away. It was never going to happen. And that was tough. So everything was conspiring. Like, you can't talk to us. You speak to a couple of lads. I mean, I was good friends with Teddy Sheringham. The lads were great in there, and they'd have banter with me, but it was only probably Teddy who knew deep down it wasn't quite right. He said, "Are you really all right?" And I'm like, you half think about opening up to him, but you never do. All good, mate, all good, yeah. And you get back to what you are and you bat it off, and then, you just get further away from being anything like yourself.
I guess part of the reason you've set up the foundation is that so players now in that position, they can go somewhere and talk to someone like yourself who have been through it. Exactly what they're going through.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to get to, right? That's exactly it. You said it so well, you probably said it better than I could. But listen, you have got HR at clubs. You have got the PFA are great. The PFA have always been great to me. But it's really hard as a player, if you're having a bad time, to pick up the phone, say, whether it be gambling, whether it be mental health, whatever you're struggling with, your personal life, your divorce, whatever. It's really hard to pick up the phone to someone you don't know on the other end of the phone, who has no idea about you, no idea what you're going through, and say, I'm struggling. I need help for this. I don't know any lads who do it. Never mind 99%. I'd say 100% of lads I know wouldn't pick up that phone. So that's where it's trying to get to. That's why the book come out. I thought if I can give it a good base, then I could start, lads that have been through it like myself, as I speak to, lads who have had gambling problems all the time, people with mental health problems all the time, struggling financially, but back on their feet again. I've touched on most of it, so I've got a nice sort of bearing, but it'd be, lads going through it now, if they can pick up the phone to players, who have been through it themselves, I think it'd be easy to, and it might not even be a case of picking up the phone and cold calling myself. It might be, someone who knows me, or someone who's involved in the foundation. You just mention it to them, say, listen, what do they do? Do you reckon I could speak to Matty or something? And that's it. All you've got to do is get them talking. And I'm not saying we've got all the answers by a long stretch of the imagination, but then that's where you can get the proper help at the far. We're sort of the in between. We want to be that in between to first steps where you start admitting you may have a problem, you may have something you need talking about, you may need professional help, which then we can guide you into. And that's hopefully where the PFA will come in down the line as well.
Yeah, well, it's a brilliant thing you're doing, Jill. I think with any situation in life, if you've got a problem, it helps to talk to people who've been there and have experienced it, haven't they? So, I mean, that's wonderful stuff, and the foundation, I'm sure, is going to do some great stuff in the future. But just getting back to yourself, I mean, you say how much you do take pride in a lot of your career. One thing I guess you should take pride in, and hopefully do, you came through that dark period and you did play in the Premier League, and you went on to go and have a good career at West Ham.
The fans were unbelievable to me, like the Walsall fans were. It was very similar club, family club, but on a bigger scale, really. And so to actually make my Prem debut with them was brilliant. And I couldn't quite. It was tough after that. I couldn't quite reach the levels I needed to because I had another knee operation, so it didn't quite let me get to the top levels I wanted to get to. But again, I had another 3 years there after the knee injury, which was incredible.
And you were far from finished after West Ham, weren't you? Back to Walsall to finish your career, then a really interesting spell at Spurs, and part of an absolute dream story at Lincoln City on the coaching side. I mean, there was plenty still in the Jimmy Walker story after your playing career.
Just to be there was incredible, and I knew, my roles to be an experienced cover, Radio Gomez and Cudicini, but training with these guys, that felt really good at the time. I'm thinking, I should got half a chance of playing it, and it didn't conspire. It didn't in the end, but I was involved in every squad. Whether it be third choice or on the bench, I was involved in every squad that year, and it was an unbelievable year. We ended up in the Champions League spots, beat Man City on the, second to last game of the season, beating 1-0 at Man City to nick into the fourth spot. So to be involved in that at that stage of my career was incredible. And then, like you say, to then the cherry on top of the cake was going back to Walsall. I didn't know about the appearance record then when I went back. I was probably 100 or so off it. But after the first season, obviously got a bit closer. Second season got a bit closer. So probably 50, I think. And then it was the second season, Dean Smith offered me not the greatest of contract, but he just took that and he went, you do realise you're about 30, 40 games off breaking the record. I didn't have a clue at the time. So that was like, oh, you've got me now, haven't you? I'll probably sign for nothing to break it. To be that, something you can look back and leave a legacy at a club like, that obviously love dearly, and I spent 14 years of my life there. So to become the appearance record holder there was a real good feeling. Real good feeling. But then again, and after that, Brian, you mentioned Lincoln and coaching. Couldn't quite get to the levels in my last season at Walsall I wanted to, and there's a lot documented in the book behind the scenes, and it just felt right I had to leave at the time for myself. I was starting to fall out with people. I couldn't affect it how I wanted to on the pitch, and I probably weren't a great influence off it, if I'm being honest. Spoke to my good friends and said, look, I know I'm not sure if Jim looking for a job, but they want someone who could still play if needed and go into coaching, do the coaching. So I spoke to Daz Fergie, bullshitted him a little bit of where I was with the Badgers, and took training for the rest of that season, and I became a coach. Fell into it really, but absolutely found something I loved. I love being involved in the coaching side. There's nothing ever gets close to playing. Nothing will ever get close to playing. It's impossible. The feeling you get as a player, there's nothing like it. But coaching ran it very close, and to see things you're doing in training coming off in matches and it working, and the lads buzzing off it, it was great. And I actually enjoyed being on the coaching side and the managing side of things. And And that was great. So yeah, like you say, did Peterborough for 3 years. I went to Crystal Palace, Gillingham, ended up at Lincoln, where I've settled down now, which was probably one of the best seasons. Definitely as obviously a coach, but in football in general.
I think it's one of the most amazing football stories in the history of English football. Non-league side get into the FA Cup quarter-finals. Lincoln, who, with respect for much of their history, it's been a real struggle. And again, this is probably the best era of their existence. And what a season that was. The Imps trotting out at Arsenal in the FA Cup quarter-final.
To finish top of that league and get up was incredible. After the cup run we'd had, beating Burnley in the last 16 of the FA Cup. I mean, the run was incredible. We beat Oldham, then we beat Ipswich, we beat Brighton, and there was all incredible moments. Like the Ipswich game was a replay. It was the last minute of the game. They had a corner. We broke the other end and scored. It was euphoria. Sincil Bank was absolutely jumping as well. A great place as well to work, Sincil Bank. I've been fortunate enough to work at some fantastic places over my career, and a rocking Sincil Bank at Lincoln is right up there, to be fair. And that season was sold out week in, week out. So to get to the FA Cup, quarterfinals against Arsenal at the Emirates is incredible.
That's a great effort. And I was lucky enough to cover Lincoln City for 5 years for Lincolnshire Echo back in the 90s, Wack, and I have to say that it was never a problem for them getting to the FA Cup quarter-final, distracting them from the league in those days. They didn't have that to deal with. But what a story that was, Jim. And another chapter for you as well. You've spoken about that remarkable time at Tottenham, obviously Walsall and West Ham. If somebody had said to that young lad that had just been rejected by Notts County, this is all going to happen, I think he'd have been okay with that, wouldn't he?
If he was sat on that beach in Tenerife at 18 years of age, not knowing what he was going to do, really confident shot, I think I would have snapped your hands off for it. Now, it was, joking aside, that's where I look back with the pride, and the things I've been fortunate. I've been fortunate. There's times in it all where you can go down the wrong route, but I've always managed to fight back from it and to work for, and to be at clubs and play for fans like your Walsall's, West Ham's, Lincoln's, and be involved with Spurs. An incredible time. And yeah, and even with the downs, I don't think it makes the ups even better. So I don't think I'd swap a second of it. Maybe I'd just land a little bit better on my knee and try and trouble the Premier a little bit more with West Ham, but you just never know in life what's around the corner. I always said in the book, sometimes you have some real dark moments and you feel like there's nowhere to turn. There always is. You battle back from it and you get to the other side of it. You're stronger for it as well. And unfortunately, throughout my career in life, that's what I managed to do.
And now, the JW Foundation means that there is somewhere for young and not so young footballers to turn. So tell us about that. If going forward now, that's going to be part of your life and career, I guess. And if anybody in football needs to get in touch, then I guess they're more than welcome to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. The website's up and running. It's JW23.org. Got some great ambassadors on there. Some of my ex-teammates who've been through a lot as well. Dean Ashton, who's well documented, had to finish his career really early at the very, very top. And what a player Dean could have been even more. So he's been through that side of things. Matty Etherington, obviously well documented from his, gambling addictions, things like that. So there is a lot of lads on there been through a lot of different stuff. And hopefully the more we go on, we'll increase that support network. And like I say, anyone wants to call in, you get to speak to these guys, and that's a good starting board to hopefully then, if you need the help, get the help you need.
Well, it's a great way to give back, Waki. You've also given tons and tons of pleasure over the years as well to lots of supporters. So thank you for all that, and thanks for this as well.
Reports from Arbroath is an Orion Creative Services production. To listen to more episodes, to read our blog, or to join our mailing list, please visit reportsfromarbroath.com.